Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of PD and P-Dubs Unscripted, and you can see I'm joined by Joe Latuszek if you're watching online. He's our praise team director and been on the podcast before. It's great to have you back, Joe.
Great to be here with you, Pastor. So awesome and he was just showing me some of the new gear we got. This is great.
So yeah, and I thought we could bring him on to kind of touch base a little bit about our upcoming night of worship. We don't have a date set for that, but if you want to just give a little teaser for what the theme is.
Yeah, sure. So we are trying to look for a date in March. So keep your eyes peeled. We'll keep everyone updated before spring break. But our theme for this next night of worship is going to be truth and grace. And so our last theme was House of Prayer, and each night of worship we try and have some kind of theme to have a discussion around. So if you're new to our nights of worship, we have a couple sets of music, but in between our two sets, we have like a roundtable discussion with the pastors, and we try and hone in on a theme, and this month's theme will be truth and grace.
So yeah, we'll dive more into it in the episode, and we're going to cue the music.
PD and P-Dubs Unscripted.
Who's that guy? Who says that?
I don't know. It's probably the same guy that made the theme song for us.
Wow, what a loser! I'm just teasing.
Yeah, because we've had that for a couple of years now, that theme song you gave us.
It might be time to make a new one. So if you guys want a new one, leave a comment. If you don't, leave a comment too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we've ever really gotten much comments.
They're like, this is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about it until you played it just now.
Really?
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty good. I just wanted to make something that was bubbly and uplifting,
Right,
you
and
know,
that's
fun.
what I think when we talked about, because you did the initial like video intro that we have.
That's right.
And then I kind of updated that a couple months ago, where I kept most of what you did, but like, because I think you were using the original, like when we were doing the video where it was like the head on from like his computer and my computer, P-Dubs and my computer.
Yeah.
And then so like I took out those shots and interjected like some of the new ones with how the camera's
Oh, cool, good. I haven't seen it. I should take a look.
So yeah, I mean, it was only a couple little segments, but I kept it because I'm like, oh, all your fancy like overlays and stuff. I want to keep that, but when it's just a straight up, let's try and get our modern.
It might be time for a new one, man. The time flies. I can't believe it's been 2 years already.
It's probably been because like we started the podcast in 2022.
Okay.
And I was using one of my friends' bands from seminary, something like one of their songs for the theme.
That's right. Okay.
And then I asked you when you kind of came on board. Because, I think this will be episode 135 of the podcast.
Holy cow. Wow.
So
congratulations. You guys are into triple digits now,
Yeah,
man.
triple digits. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
And, you know, how we've changed from, like, you look at what the room used to look like when we first started to now, like, our old system, now this, and...
You guys are moving on up. This is great. I love this little road system, and I love that there's sound effects built in.
Right, and we can add more. If you're creative and come up with more, I can always add more to the soundboard here.
Oh,
we got,
don't tempt me.
But, yeah, so it's, you know, playing, like... You know, Joe and I were playing. By accident, I did this, and Joe started to talk kind of...
Sound like this.
So, yeah, that kind of threw us off. I was like, what's it doing? I'm like, I didn't realize. And I got to figure out, because like it feels like when I hit those before, I heard nothing. So I wonder if it's like I got to figure out how to apply it to whatever mic.
It's like a setting within a setting. And
yeah.
Well, it's like the blessing and curse of modern technology. Like, it's cool that we have the electronic memory capacity that like those 8 buttons, you can program a bunch of different and like overlay so that like the same button on 2 different channels, you know what I mean? Like you can stack them. But then it just, you know, also makes all of the programming stuff more layered and complicated. And I'm like a 2-year-old with this stuff. If I can't just push and play kind of thing, like I'm not a tech guy that way. And it's tricky in music because it's become, especially with social media, you kind of have to be an electronics dude. If you want to put your stuff out there, you got to figure out how to like be a recording engineer and an editor and a video producer and a lighting guy, you know.
Yeah, and we're very simple with our lighting. And like even that, like the lights that we have shining on us right now, we've had, and I think the first few times, well, probably for a few 3 months at least, when we were recording like the video component of this, the lights were in here, and I never thought to turn them on. And then one day I was like, wait a second, we have studio lighting.
Wait a second.
So it shows how much I pay attention to like how I can use the things in the surroundings here.
Yeah.
But I mean, with this, it's nice I can control everything, and I like that. I'm thinking I got to test it out. Like, somebody has a cough, I bet I could actually mute their mic, and then you wouldn't hear that, which would make the edit, because you don't hear us talking during the theme song when I mute the mics.
Yeah, that was always a big thing in like the early days of radio. It probably still is in radio, but like cough buttons are usually built into the mic, so you can,
right?
And they're so short range that hopefully the other mics don't pick it up, kind of thing.
Right. So I just got to test it out. I don't want to try it live because I'm like, then I got to edit, but I just got to test it out at some point.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be your guinea pig anytime. So.
But yeah, and there's a few other features. Like I know, like I was still trying to figure out how to Bluetooth my phone for guests, but when I was with Andy, we were playing around where I should be able to like Zoom somebody onto my computer, and it will take the audio from my computer through this soundboard.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So that would probably be the best bet if we need to bring a guest that isn't in the Palatine area that has to be remote.
Yeah, that's funny because like podcasting has blown up so much over the last decade. You see a lot more in-person stuff, but I remember in the early days of podcasts, it was almost exclusively like through YouTube live streams and stuff
Zoom,
like that.
Skype.
Yeah, it was really big in like the gaming commentary community because like a lot of those guys are in different states, but they have weekly podcasts and they're all just beamed in. But yeah, with the rise of the popularity, I see like a lot more. They've become, especially at the celebrity level, like talk shows essentially.
Right, because it feels like, well, I know it doesn't feel like. I know I heard the one podcast I listened to. They were talking about, they were joking how they weren't up for the Golden Globe for some podcast because I guess Amy Poehler's podcast got a Golden Globe over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, I'm biased this way, but like, like once podcasts were taken over by celebrities, podcast died, in my opinion. Like we're already moving on to the next thing. I don't know what the next thing is, but like as soon as it gets into celebrity culture, it's already too late.
It feels like there are a lot of celebrities now. They have them.
Yeah. They're like, Dax Shepard's new podcast is #1 on Apple. It's like, well, yeah, he's a AAA movie star. And so he just started this, well, I mean, he's been doing it for a few years now. But when it first announced, he's like, in his first week, it's like, well, yeah.
He has a
pre-built-in audience.
He had a built-in following.
Yeah, so good luck for anyone else out there.
I mean, I thought P-Dubs and PD and P-Dubs Unscripted, I can't even get the podcast name. I thought we would have been up for a Golden Globe this past
totally.
week.
I probably shouldn't be saying podcasts are already dead while we're recording a podcast. That's just my intuition is that the world will move on. It's kind of like YouTube was like technology for the people. Like all you remember early YouTube videos was like a guy in his living room with like bad lighting, like just like talking about like whatever the game he's playing. And now it's like if you don't have a full-on production suite, good luck,
Or you look at like Vine. I think that was like early 2010s. That was big. Then Musical.ly.
Yeah.
All those trends. And like TikTok seems to be the one that is still going strong, I think.
They just keep morphing into one another. Like Vines became, like TikTok is what Vines was in 2010.
And then you got Instagram Reels.
Instagram Reels is for like us older like millennials where like... the thing I should have seen on TikTok, I see a week later on Instagram on Reels because I refuse to get TikTok.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not getting TikTok. I'm good.
Get out of here.
And I think Facebook has a Reels type thing now too. So they all have them. And, then you got Twitter or X as people call it now.
Yeah. Give me the good old days of like MySpace. And were you ever on Pure Volume? Did you ever?
It sounds familiar, but I was never on.
It was like really early social media for musicians. And so it was cool because you could actually go there and discover like legit indie bands. And
was it like an earlier version of like SoundCloud?
Kind of, yeah, basically. But yeah, I miss the early days of
MySpace is in your top 8.
Yeah, man.
And was it Tom was the guy?
Yeah.
And then the other one I remember in college was Zanga, which was like a blog.
I never got into that, but I heard people were on it. Yeah.
But yeah, MySpace and all that, your top 8.
We're coming full circle now where you've got like, Gen Zers and young kids that are like, wouldn't it be cool if music started playing when people came to visit your profile page? And I'm like, you're describing MySpace. You just described MySpace.
Just make it very emo. And you got a MySpace from the 2000s.
Yeah.
Quote your favorite Taking Back Sunday song or whatever emo band that was popular.
Yeah, I kind of miss those days when people would leave like the austere status update, it's just like song lyrics.
Right.
And then your aunt comments on it like, are you okay, sweetie? You're like, leave me alone.
With your AOL Instant Messenger away messages.
100%.
But, if it was an emo band, it had to have a super long title that made no sense.
It made no sense whatsoever. You can thank Pete Wentz for popularizing that, I feel like. But yeah.
But yeah, so we're sharing some truth here.
Oh yeah, hey, I love it. I love the segue.
But yeah, so I want to talk to Joe a little bit about that theme that we has planned for our upcoming night of worship that should be coming up in March, probably right now.
Yeah.
Tentatively, I don't want to say any dates because don't want to confuse anybody, but probably looking in the March time. But so yeah, just let's talk a little bit about that theme of truth and stuff that you want to talk about at the night of worship, and maybe a little background on the night of worship. You kind of hit in our intro that like the praise team plays a couple sets, and then we try it for the first time at our last night of worship where you joined Pastor Warren and myself up front, and we just had a discussion over the topic.
Yeah, so in general, I know nights of worship have been around for a while, probably since the 90s for churches, but for Immanuel, they're new for us, something we just started like over this past year, so I think this is our third one that we're doing. And so, so a night of worship, really the intention is for us to gather as much of the church as we can to come worship with us, and we're primarily worshiping through music. And me as a musician, like I am partial to this because I connect the most to God and to the Holy Spirit through music, so I do like that part of it. But yeah, we've thought like, well, how do we take the idea of a night of worship and be able to offer that to our congregation as a way to connect with God, but also like stay true to Immanuel roots, and how can we interject a little twist into this that makes it our own and something good for the congregation? And so that's kind of where these roundtable discussions have started. And so,
and it's more because I think the first one it was just Pastor and myself talking.
Yes, yeah.
And then the second one, which was our last one, you came up there and you kind of gave us a little precursor of the questions. It's not like the ask the pastor.
Yeah. I try and give you guys a little like preview of what we're going to talk about so you can, prepare your hearts and minds and kind of stuff. When we do the ask the pastor, it's just like, here's the question, what's your that's part of the fun of that. But yeah, so I like to get everyone prepped a little bit. But yeah, the topic of truth and grace came up. I'd seen it kind of floating around on social media. I think I saw a clip of a couple of pastors talking about it. And one of the points they had made, one pastor had asked the question, like, can you speak truth? Like, are you yourself capable of speaking truth? And then two, are you capable of doing so with grace? And his point was, those who are not able to speak truth will usually find somewhere else to do it, and that place is usually behind people's backs. And the point he was making is like the fastest way to erode the substructure of a church or a relationship or a business or anything is to be talking behind each other's backs, right?
Yeah, I think that's part of our culture is like, maybe you're with a group of friends, then on the way home, whoever you're with, you're like, well, did you see what that person did? And you start critiquing and complaining about what somebody did there, and they're not even in the room or wherever you're at to defend themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
And we just put the worst construction on things.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we can all struggle with. It's something I've confessed to many a times in front of the church is like one of my wife's and I's favorite activities is complaining. And it's a bad habit. And it's something that when we catch ourselves doing it, we try to swap it and replace it
but it's with
gratitude. But it's a very human thing,
well,
right?
that's like, I had a member at my first congregation that was like, heaven's going to be boring. What am I going to do? I can't complain because that person liked to complain.
I remember reading a book called A Complaint-Free World, and it's about developing a new habit of not complaining. And one of the things he points out in the book is like when one partner commits to not complaining and not the other, like say in a marriage, it often causes a lot of strain because so much of our point of connection is talking about the things that we don't like.
Right.
And there's probably a place for in this book, he would point out there is a fundamental difference between complaining and then just stating the thing. So there's a difference between saying to the waiter, like, my soup is cold. That's a fact. Versus like, my soup is cold. Like, how dare you?
And then you can feed off that negativity, which is not good. It's not good to feed off that negativity when somebody else is so negative.
100%. But that's part of the trick. It's part of why I want to talk about this truth and grace thing is like, one of the things I think we have to admit as humans is like, there is like a juice you get from gossiping, complaining. Part of what's built into the juice that you get from that is like, one, you're connecting with someone else. So there's like this inside thing, like you and I get it, but this guy doesn't get it. So there's a little juice there. But there's like this additional layer of juice you get from like, whenever you're complaining, it automatically posits you above the problem because you can see the problem perfectly, so perfectly that you can complain about it. And so all of your complaints are validations that you are outside, above, and beyond this problem. And so that's why I think it's important that we make the distinction between like just stating a fact, saying a thing as it is, versus complaining. The energy of complaining removes us from the problem and makes us like a non-factor in some sense. And so it elevates our sense of self-importance. We get to feel righteous. That's a great feeling, right? I'm right, they're wrong. You agree with me because you're talking to me about it. And so that's part of what I want to address a little bit is like, are we willing to give up the juice of complaining and feeling right and justified in order to be truthful and graceful, which is much less appealing and glamorous and sexy that way.
Right. And I was thinking, like, as you're talking like Matthew chapter 7, verse 3, why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?
That's another big one, right?
It's so easy to like, oh, well, I'm better. Like you're saying, I don't do that.
Yeah.
But we have our own thing that we do wrong.
Yes.
And we can just put down others because, like, well, I'm not as bad as that person. We like to rank and judge our sins.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, the only one that can do that is God because he's the only one that has no plank, no sawdust in his eye.
Yeah. I love that verse too because I think, there's sort of these universal moral laws that God has written into his creation. And like this verse is one of those things that reveals that, which is like there's this universal truth that it will be much easier for me to see what's wrong with you than what's wrong with me.
Right.
And what I've also found is that it tends to be that like the thing that you notice and complain about in others, the reason you can see it is usually because there's a counterpoint of it in you. That's a tricky one to swallow.
Right.
Because like, so for instance, someone who really like drives me up a wall when I see them is Kanye West. The arrogance, the attitude. I'm a musician and I'm like, I don't think you're good enough to justify the attitude you have. Even if you were good enough, I still don't think it justifies the lack of humility. It really, really revs me up. But then I have to pause and go like, what counterpoint of arrogance is there in me that gets me this escalated? And so I think some people don't buy that, but I find that to generally be true. The thing that you're complaining about, there's probably some variation or shade of it in yourself. Mm-hmm. And this Bible verse points us back to like, that's what you need to look at first.
Right.
And if you heal that, a weird thing happens. Other people's brokenness won't trigger you that way.
Right. And
that makes sense.
Yeah. I was thinking about, I don't know if you ever watched Really How I Met Your Mother. I think we've maybe talked that Jamie does.
Jamie saw every episode. I've seen probably 5 or 6.
But there's one episode where they're all like, oh, you have this annoying habit. And they don't realize they have that annoying habit. And none of the friend group realizes the other person's annoying habit until it gets pointed out.
Yes.
And then everybody's like, you're right. They do always do that one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you hear like the glass shatter because it's like, oh, I get it now. And then they're trying to do an intervention like, well, I don't do that.
Yeah.
And then they do the exact thing they say they don't do.
Yeah.
But I think that's true for all of us, that it's easy we don't realize that we have our own little things that annoy other people.
Right.
We just think it's natural. And then maybe we have a group of friends that doesn't realize it. And then somebody points it out. And then that's all you can see.
Right. And I think that, talking about the grace end of this truth thing, that's probably an opportunity for grace too, when you connect those dots and realize like, we're all kind of putting up with each other and some, you know what I mean? We're all in the same boat. And like, I will say this to like, I'll have some students, especially younger kids now with social media and stuff, they can be so introverted and shy. They're like afraid to take up any space. So when I encounter students like that, I'm like, take up space, man. And it's like, well, what if I annoy people? It's like, you're dealing with people that annoy you all day too. Like we're all stuck in this together, dude.
Right. We all have personality quirks that can rub people the wrong way.
Right.
And when you think about like friendships or relationships with a significant other, that's why those are great, because they overlook those things and they still love you despite that. And even maybe someone, if there is some correction that needs to be done, that significant other, that friend, they will do it gently in truth and grace of like, hey, just trying to help you out and doing it in a caring way instead of just like, I can't believe you do that. You're such a horrible human.
Yeah, and it's tough when you receive truth without grace, and it can be informative or it can be destructive, right? Like an example from my own life, I'll never forget this. I was calling a bandmate and leaving a message about something about band practice or something. So later on, I don't know, later in the week, we're all together and hanging out with my bandmates. And I asked my buddy, like, hey, did you get my message? And, like, he kind of stops and smiles and glances at the other guys, and they're all grinning. And immediately, like, we've all been in situations like that. There's a joke, and you're not inside of it.
Right.
And he was like, no, dude, I didn't listen to your message. He's like, I can't listen to your messages. I'm like, what? He's like, you leave the longest, most rambling messages that don't have anything to do with anything. You just talk for like 5 minutes, and then I call you back anyways. And then all the other guys were like laughing and nodding, and it was like this sudden awareness of like this habit that I had it just was completely outside of my. I had no idea it was. And like, listen, I'm also the kind of person too where like if you're on the phone with me and you're distracted by something else the whole time, I'm annoyed by that. but here I am being this guy in the messages to people, just, and to me it was just like, hey, I'm calling my buddy, I'm working on something. So it didn't, I never even thought twice about it, you know? But anyways, that was one of those truths that really hurt because everyone was inside of the joke. It wasn't handled with particular grace, right? I mean, they could have been really mean, but being laughed and ogled at is uncomfortable enough. But I will say it was informative enough that it made me just be aware of like, hey, when you're leaving a message, like as a courtesy for people, like just get to the point. Like, why are you calling? What's the thing for? So now my message is like, hey, something went wrong at the blah, blah, blah. We're going to meet about this on this day. You call me back. That's it,
But nowadays, maybe that's where the good thing with the visual voicemail, where you can read the text of the voicemail, you can just skim through.
Just skim through it, yeah.
Be like, okay, there's what the point of this is. Everything else, don't have to pay attention to.
Those translations are hilarious, by the way, how off they are sometimes. And I'm like, what hot potato in pants? What are we talking about?
But yeah, and I guess I would be the same. Like, I don't need a long voicemail. Just tell me the facts, or just send it in. And nowadays, because probably when you did that, text messaging wasn't as prevalent.
Yeah, it was like early 2000s. So like you had to have a text messaging package and pay per text and all that stuff. And but yeah, it's funny. So like even when truth is received without grace, it can be informative. But I think especially as we're charged in the Bible to deliver truth with grace, that it's something that we should focus on. And I'm particularly curious about this topic because I like to be straightforward and truthful, but I've also noticed in my life how directness can really cut people. And so like when you want to hurt someone, feels really good to deliver the truth that way. But that's the part of the grace thing, right? Is like, how do I remain graceful even if my sort of reactive emotional instincts are to hurt this person?
Right, and that's the thing is like, especially if it's somebody close to us, we know exactly what to say or how to say things to cut that person right to the core.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I need to take a step back and not do that thing in that way. But how can I do it gracefully? Because I want to help this person.
Yes.
But it isn't always easy because even if you are graceful, that person might not receive it. They might not think you're being graceful, even though you're being as graceful as you can.
And there are some things that are just that are difficult to be graceful with, right? Like, we're in the worship band, right? If someone tries out and wants to be lead singer and they can't sing in tune, that just kind of is what it is. I can let them down as gracefully as I can, be kind about it, but like the truth in and of itself, there's not a lot of dressing up you can do with that.
Is this because I tried out to be the lead singer of the praise? Are you telling me that I am not good enough to sing in the praise?
Wait, we need one of our badoom. Yeah, there it is. All right.
But it's that like you sometimes got to share that truth with somebody.
It's tough.
And it's not always easy, and it's not always to receive it because just the way we do it. I know that's some things I've been using like ChatGPT for at times because sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm just kind of saying the facts and like an email or something. I was like, I want this to still sound friendly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, ChatGPT, please make this friendlier.
Yeah.
Make it warm and friendly, please.
My particular point of struggle in sin in this regard is like I'm. This is like my pattern. I'll, as much as I can, communicate the truth gracefully, like repeatedly, and like pressure's building, their circumstances and changing, whatever the thing is, and I'm committed to truth and grace, and then I hit a personal point where I'm like, gloves are coming off. We're done with this, and then not only am I'm mean, I'm so mean it shocks even myself. It's like a very visceral animal like response, and it is so damaging. And now almost approaching 40, like I've learned from this enough that like I've learned how to hem that in. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said there aren't damaged relationships in the wake of my history. There certainly are from exactly that pattern. And so that's a tricky thing is like what do you do when you are communicating truth gracefully as far as you can tell?
Right, and how many times do you keep communicating that same truth gracefully where you finally hit the wall of like either you explode on that person or you just say, you know what, I'm done trying.
Yeah.
And I don't know if even that saying, well, I'm done trying, if that's really the right answer.
Yeah.
Because if you care about that person and it's something that will help them long term, you don't want to give up on it.
Right.
But how many times can it fall upon deaf ears where you're just like, it's not making a difference, why bother? So then you get apathetic to it, and that might be better than exploding because, like you said, that might damage the relationship.
Yeah.
but still, what is the damage long term if you just kind of let it go and let the person continue to persist in that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question of like, what's your proximity? What should that be like? Like the way I think of it is like, because some people will struggle with this question of like, especially millennials. There are a lot of millennials that are now deliberately distancing themselves from their families, particularly their parents, and so like one of the questions that comes up frequently is like, well, where is that line? When do I walk away from stuff? And I always think of it like as like, you know, if I'm sitting next to you here and you set yourself on fire, I have some obligation to try and put that fire out. But what I'm not obligated to do is to sit next to you and also catch fire, right?
Right.
And so like that to me is the point where like, okay, there's actually not an option here. Like staying is and reiterating this truth is actually silly because this person is dedicated themselves to torching themselves, right? And so like once you get in that position, there's nothing you actually can do. Like the choice is kind of made for you, you know? But yeah, so I think this whole topic is really interesting, fertile ground for discussion. Like one of the things we had touched on is like, not with God, like God's, thankfully his grace is unlimited, but like between humans, are there times and places where you forfeit your right to grace? Like the example I'd used is like when my child was 3 and, you know, he takes the toy truck and smacks his cousin with it. That's probably not the time for me to be like, oh no, Bradley, we just, you know, gentle hands. Right. Like that is like we don't do that. Don't do that. And like in his 3-year-old mind, he's not totally getting it other than dad is big and angry and mad.
Right.
But then that happens one time. And that's not, you know, part of how you end up with like these kids that are like nightmares and they're like terrorizing other children is like you usually find a parent who's maybe a little, I don't want to say graceful. It's not even, but like grace can transform into like appeasement, you know what I mean?
Or like, and you know, you see it sometimes like where a parent wants to be friends with their child and they're not willing to correct something.
Yes.
So, oh, I want them to like me.
Yeah.
I remember on one of the years we went to sea camp when we went with our sister's school, talking to one of the parents from the sister school, he was just like, I'm not here to be my kid's friend. I'm his parent. And there's a difference.
Yeah.
And so that was a big thing for him of like, you know, I'm here, I support him, I love him, but I'm also not his friend. So I can't let him do things that aren't right.
Yeah, right.
I got to correct those things.
Yeah, the unwillingness from some younger generations of parents to hold their kids to a minimal standard of behavior is alarming because part of what they don't realize is like when you allow your child to become unlikable by adults will mistreat them. Like people like to think like adults, like we're the adults in the room, but like no, if you've got a kid that's difficult and you don't like him, you will ignore him. You know what I mean? Like
subconsciously.
Yeah, and so like. Listen, we all go through the time with our kids when they're 2 or 3 and like they're a nightmare to have in restaurants, you know. But like beyond that, if you've got a kid that like you can't behave well in public, like you're training all of the other adults in their life to not like that kid. And now that every time that kid encounters an adult, like it's with that false smile of like, oh, Johnny's here. Look, right. Johnny's here. And like it's a world of lies. That's not good for the child. It's not good for you. So like for the love of God, you know, set a boundary. But yeah, I think part of what I'm driving at here is there's this interesting relationship between like the example you gave, like I'm not my child's friend. There's a balance between that and like I'm exclusively my child's friend. Like if you're never your child's friend, you're probably not connecting to them in some key and emotional ways that they need their parent. Mm-hmm. And if you're never guiding their behavior or setting boundaries, they don't even have a world that they can interact with properly. They don't understand the basic forms of how to move through life. Right. And so yeah, I'm kind of off on a side tangent here, but I think this is kind of related to this thing of like, how do we express truth? How do we do it with grace? Right. And how is that parameterized? You know, like, am I supposed to be more graceful with my 3-year-old when he whacks his cousin? I mean, I don't have a 3-year-old anymore. Right. He's a freshman now, but you know what I mean? What am I supposed to do with that?
Balance of like, what is the appropriate amount of grace, truth, and like, just can't let somebody persistently live in sin.
Right.
And that's a hard thing is like if we correct people, oh, you're judging me or whatnot, and they're not receiving it, but it's like, no, Jesus corrected people when they did things wrong.
Sure, yeah.
He showed them love and grace better than what we can.
Yeah.
And those people received it well for the most part. Like I think of like the woman called in adultery. Mm-hmm. She wasn't like, you're judging me, you're horrible. She was just like thankful, and he's like, go and sin no more.
That's something I talk to young people about whenever I get a chance. Is like corrective feedback is something that's kind of missing generationally now. Like I don't know about you growing up, but like it was not uncommon for like another adult to reprimand me. Like if I'm at your house or outside on the block or in a public space, like that was very normal. That is very taboo nowadays.
I want to say there was a story, and like I was little when it happened, where my mom corrected some of us in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that one parent got very upset with my mom.
Yeah.
And then like stopped kind of talking to us.
Yeah, and I feel like all the seeds for what we're seeing now were all planted in the late '80s, early '90s. Like a lot of these social norms that have changed. Like, and one of those things is like this idea that it's like it's not nice to like offer corrective feedback. And so what I'm seeing with young people is like they're in these friend groups where like they're not calling out like the obvious behavior. And so like it disservices both parties. Like one party is annoyed and then the other party is like growing off in this weird trajectory because they have no one to say, hey, Joe, you leave too long of a message. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, listen, I'm a chatterbox. It's useful for some things, right?
Like a podcast.
It's useful for a podcast. It's useful when I have to like address the church on Sunday and I don't know exactly what I'm going to say, but I can say something because I always have something to say,
Right.
like, that's useful. But like if it's belaboring the point, distracting people, stopping them from being efficient, annoying, and like, listen, we're going to irritate people. We can't account for all of that. But if it's like a persistent like distraction in people's lives, you should probably address it. So yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like, even though corrective feedback can be painful, it's also necessary and it's just part of growing up and being alive. And so seeing young people never offer each other corrective feedback doesn't benefit anyone.
Right.
You
Because
know,
you learn and grow from those things. Like, I think back to a few years ago, probably 2021-ish, I think 2021, when we had our first, well, not our first, but we had in-person VBS after not doing it in person for 2020 because of COVID. But it felt like those that were like the younger grades that would have been in school that previous year, their behavior was a lot worse than previous years because they never had that correctiveness from being in school. This was kind of, in a sense, VBS was their first school setting. So they didn't have those kind of social norms of like, this is how we act when we're in a school setting.
Yeah, 100%.
And so, you do wonder, not that I'm trying to get political or any of this, but how does like the development, how did that shape things?
Yeah.
Because it did change. It changed a lot of our world.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting because there's this intersection between like technology and media and politics and culture, and how does that all dovetail to produce like a lot of what we're seeing today. And I think in a lot of ways we're seeing like a seriously disaffected, disconnected. I mean, one alarming thing is like music listenership is like way down. Music has become the secondary form of like art, where it's like background stuff, like
on a TikTok video, like the song is playing in the background.
Yeah, or like, most of us now as adults, like it's a very passive activity. You have it on while you're doing dishes or whatever. Right. But like, when was the last time you sat down and listened to an album, like beginning to end? And I'm guilty of this too. Like it's been literally years. It's probably been since like 2010, like when my son was born.
Is that because of the busyness? And so it's like, oh, it's background noise, like driving, working.
Well, like even if even beyond the background noise thing, like just kids are less affected by me. Like I can't remember in the last 10 years any student I've asked what bands do you like that actually had like an answer. And it used to be, I've been teaching for 20 years. So like it used to be that like kids could tell you an artist name, they could tell you an album, they could tell you a song name. Now you'll get kids that just describe like a search term. They're like, I like chill hop, like lo-fi chill hop. Okay, well name like one.
What does that even mean?
It's like study music, right? Became popular in the early 2000s. Do you remember that song like cup of coffee for your head? Make a cup of coffee for your head. Old lo-fi song. Anyways, but there's like a handful of artists that popularized that. But now it's like you just type that into your Spotify and it will just play random artists for you. And so like there's no ownership with the music. There's no identity tied to their music.
And I think you and I have talked about this before. Like, going to Best Buy, getting a CD, looking through the liner notes. Taking that sticker off the top so you could crack it open.
We're proud elder emos, you know, like that was our time.
But then and I think, because like I would say the younger generation aren't in that like of like, hey, I want to listen to a whole album. Right. I want to listen to one song by that person.
Yeah. And you can't blame them for it. It's how they grew up with it.
And that's like an iTunes, I think, a product of iTunes where, I like this song. Boom, I'll go pay 99 cents. I don't think it's 99 cents anymore. And buy this song. Or, I have my Apple Music account or my Spotify.
Yeah,
I'm just going to make playlists.
Yeah, yeah.
I really don't make playlists. I don't know. I'm like, I'd rather listen to a full album all the way through.
I miss the days of mixtapes. Like and that's part of what's interesting about our generation is we were kind of like the last boat leaving in some sense, in that like we saw the world before how it was before, like cell phones and technology, the explosion of technology. Because like I was born in the late 80s, but like most of my music collection was cassette tapes until like 95. And then like our family started reluctantly buying CD. Like my family was always like, this new DVD thing is never going to last. We're sticking with VHS tapes. So like I remember when Blockbuster finally switched over from VHSs to fully DVD. Do you remember that? It used to just be like a DVD aisle. And then it became like a bigger section. And then then one day they made the announcement, like, we're going to all DVDs. And I remember my mom just having like a fit because it was like, we are VHS people. We will not get a DVD. This is like 2004. You know what I mean? Like,
you
whatever
don't
it was.
have to be kind and rewind with the DVD.
Yeah, but yeah, the form of technology has changed and how kids consume music has changed. So it's not their fault. But yeah, it is kind of a sad thing. They don't have a relationship to music in that way.
Like, and I think you and I, that's what I was thinking about earlier, and it slipped my mind. But like you and I have talked about this, that like, you can hear a song and it will take you back to an exact moment. Oh, I hear like a Chicago punk band like Meshuggahs. I'm like, that takes me right back to college.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And now that we're aging and stuff, it is sad to see like where some of our favorite bands have ended up and stuff. Like it'll make me depressed when I see like Newfound Glory playing at Nelly's or something. Right. And listen, for them, like they're still touring, they're still making money doing it. Great. Like if I could be doing it, I would be doing that. That's cool. But there's just something sad about like, oh, yeah, I remember seeing you like a Warped Tour in front of like 10,000 people, and now there's like 200 people like that have been overserved at 2 a.m. at Nelly's in Palatine.
Or you start seeing them on the 4th of July circuit in the suburbs of Chicago.
That's rough when you start getting on like the summer festival, like
in the suburbs.
And I say that from someone who's done all that stuff. Like those are rough.
Yeah, not critiquing, but it's just like, you used to be a huge band, because like I think of like growing up, like going to the Hoffman Estates parades, or like in that area here, and like, oh, Survivor's going to be playing at one, and I'm like, oh, that's an old band.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, some of the bands I listen to
now we're the old bands. Like I've been listening to like oldies radio, and like I'm convinced that oldies really is talking about a genre now. Like oldies is really like crooning from the 50s and 60s and like old school small band setups, but like oldies technically should be playing stuff from like,
90s?
like the 90s now. And so, but there's some stations like, I don't know, I think we have 93.9 on in the car because we just got done with Christmas. I don't really listen to the radio, but I've had it on lately. And I'm like, oh, this is like the oldie station. It's all stuff like from the 90s. And like,
yeah, like I think of like the oldie station growing up, 104.3. Was that the oldie station back then? It played like the 50s and 60s when we were kids in the Chicago area.
Well, that's part of what is interesting about how technology's changed too now. Like, in the 80s, like I can't imagine like watching a movie from the 40s, Right. But like when kids are watching stuff from the 90s,
like Tommy
80s,
Boy.
Yeah. And like these are movies that are like 30, 40 years old. And like they're, so like something happened in culture and technology where like old things aren't old the way they used to be. Like we passed some threshold. I don't know what it is or where it is. It seemed to happen somewhere in the 80s. But yeah, that's just an interesting thing. Like you would have never caught us listening to something from the 1940s when we were kids.
I'm like, what is this?
But I think part of it is probably there's like a lack of like real value in the present day. And so kids are learning to reach back to find stuff of substance. I think kids are smart. They know what's up. They might be able to articulate it, but they know something's wrong. And so I think the next generation is going to be in many ways like anti-technology, like in terms of like the new cool thing will be not having a phone. I'm praying for that.
Yeah, like I like my phone, but yeah, there is like sometimes.
Oh, it's a curse for real. Like, and we're all pretending like it's not, but like they're all like listening to us, spying on us, like like just the craziest. I'm sure you've experienced the crazy specific ads that you get, and you're like, I don't know if I need to put my phone in the next room when I'm having a private conversation with my wife because.
You don't want, so it is crazy, but this is the truth of the world that we live in.
Yes, yeah.
That it changes, especially now. It feels like it just changes so rapidly because of like technology just changes so quickly, and that new way of things happening is gonna be there. But we still need to be able to be truthful, and that's what's great about Scripture. That is a truth that never changes.
Yeah,
and it speaks to whatever we're going through.
that constant is huge, and that's something I hope for younger generations to find some peace and solace in. That is like the unchanging, unmoving, unwavering, the wisdom and the Word of God and your relationship to Him. And so hopefully this night of worship can be, one, an interesting place to kind of wrestle with some of these things that we're talking about here, but also, two, as an entry point to reconnect back into your faith, back with your community, and be reflecting on some of this stuff. And hopefully you can carry that with you, and that helps you be a better person of God every day. You know,
and have some great music while we're at it, praising our Lord.
I'll do my best. It's the rest of the team that I rely on, so we thank the rest of the team for that. I just get to sit around and bang on drums, you know.
And nobody wants me up there on stage with the music. So.
We're gonna get you a maraca. We're gonna get you something, Pastor.
I can't take Jamie's spot with the maraca.
Oh yeah. You guys will have to have a fight to the death over the maracas. Then it's very protective of the maracas.
So Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to hit your
one
button that you want to hit?
Okay,
before?
what was this? That's not it. I think that's all I got.